at 18, I got cancer and I was in chemotherapy for a few years. And so I devoured every single director's commentary that came my way. I mean, every single one. I was just like, I would just watch movies for directors' commentaries, or screenwriters' commentaries, or producers' commentaries. If it had a commentary, that's where I would go. And it was became my film school while I was going through like chemotherapy. I said, I want to direct films. I feel like I either want to direct film or I want to direct theater, but I love actors and I love cameras, and there's nothing more exciting to me at all.
What? Okay. Okay, hey everyone, this is your boy Abhi again, and we are at the No Budget Podcast, and we have my great and amazing friend, the Jantastic, Jossum, Justacular, Jan-David Soutar here. Did I pronounce it right?
Dude, you did a great job. Thanks.
And he's going to be letting you know about his experience. And as far as I know and I have seen, he has a well of wisdom. So hopefully we will cover it in one part, or if he's free, we will cover it in a second part. So there's that. Okay, so Jan, uh, first of all, the big question: how do you get into this field? What makes you choose this field, and what was your initial plan or part of the plan when you started off?
Oh man, so I have like a lot of lore, I guess. That's what my wife likes to say. I have a lot of lore. So I started watching movies as a young man. My mom was a big fan of like special effects movies. I used to have a subscription to the magazine Fangoria, like magazine and all that good stuff. And I was in love with film. And I was also like an avid reader, so I just really loved it. And whenever I was 16, my mom passed away, and I inherited all of her DVDs that were director's commentary. And then at 18, I got cancer, and I was in chemotherapy for a few years. And so I devoured every single director's commentary that came my way. I mean, every single one. I was just like, I would just watch movies for director's commentaries, or screenwriters' commentaries, or producers' commentaries. If it had a commentary, that's where I would go. And it was became my film school while I was going through like chemotherapy. And then I got out and I was like 25, 26, and I was like, all right, what do I want to do? And I had worked previously in radio as a production director at some radio stations across the country. And then I went to one semester of school at Anne Arundel Community College and then outside of Baltimore. And I took an acting class and just loved it. Just was everything I ever wanted. I was really, really just so invigorated by the idea of acting. And became an actor. Did that for, I still do it here and there, but really did it for about 15 years. Was did stuff all over the country, worked in film, worked in theater, worked in TV, commercials, worked for, government agencies as an actor sometimes, the British Embassy once, like all kinds of fun things. All of that like amazing experience as an actor. And then found that I just felt really, really ready to take it to the next level and moved to Los Angeles from Baltimore. And then from there, ran upon some good luck and bad luck at the same time. I wasn't really moving where I wanted to as an actor, but at the same time, it wasn't because of, I think, an ability. I think it was more that I was, like a lot of us are here in LA, struggling to pay bills, and you can't focus on too many things at once. So, fell out of that and, started just working, 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 then saved up money, went back to school, got grants, and my wife was like, "What do you want to go to school for?" And I said, I want to direct films. I feel like I either want to direct film or I want to direct theater, but I love actors and I love cameras, and there's nothing more exciting to me at all than those two things together. I love them. I love actors. I love cameras. I love writing. I love the story. I love the collaboration of it. And I've got such a high drive. I'm a very passionate individual. And so I wound up starting at a LA City College. And during that time, I was able to make a movie on my iPhone, which was for a app called Filmic Pro. I think it's still around. It's not as good as it used to be. It used to be really, really good, but it was an app called Filmic Pro, and they had a film contest, a short film contest for their iPhone filmmakers, and I won it. I won Best Experimental Film for a film called Born a Snake. And then I made, I think, two other films on an iPhone, just kind of playing around. And then at LA City College, which I have to give all the props to, their program for filmmakers that are trying to get a head start, especially whenever they come from like, different angles or places in life, they were really, really helpful, really, really lovely individuals. And I got a world-class education in cinematography there. Like the cinematography professor, Professor Christopher Rossiter, amazing. The Joni Varner at the time ran the program. Jennifer Vaughn then ran the program after that. She was amazing. Like they just have a really, really great group of caring professionals over at LA City College. I wound up winning the Mark Hamill Scholarship. He and his wife, Merrick and Mary Lou Hamill, they have a scholarship, and I also, it just propelled my filmmaking further. And then while I was at junior college, I wound up producing on a USC master thesis film called Simpatico that a friend Anna Cassidy Lee directed and wrote. And I was partnered with an amazing producer there. And as co-producer, I had to go through a lot of, I've learned the USC master thesis producing system. And from there, I was like, okay, so this is how it's supposed to run. This is what my expectations should be. It set like really a tone for me as far as what I was to expect coming out of like a grad film school. And here I am still in junior college. So then I applied to USC, didn't get in. Applied to Chapman, didn't get in. I think that like they were looking for something younger, or I'm not quite sure. But I applied to CSUN and got into CSUN. Did my research. I got a couple of other CSUs. There's a couple other colleges that I like were there, but CSUN really kind of felt like a safe place to fail, which is what I felt school was like a safe place to fail. And it also allowed me to get a theater directing degree as well, because as an actor, I've always really loved, I adore theater. My wife likes to say that I'm married to film and theater is my mistress. So I feel like I'm talking forever. So went through CSUN, was vice president of the cinema club, was president of the cinema club. After that, while I was doing that, I was also acting in features. I was, working in features, as AC or as a first AD. I've worked as a first AD on AFI's cycle films. I've worked on AFI thesis films. I've worked on, major budget features as an actor. So my experience really kind of comes out of a lot of spaces. I've produced, like I said, a USC master thesis. I've produced two other thesis films at CSUN. I almost had a third, but that one unfortunately fell through, which really broke my heart because I really love the story. And then, since then, I've had an opportunity to mentor youth and how to make movies with the Youth Cinema Project, which is sponsored by La Leaf. I've also been on a jury a couple of years running now for film festivals, including Dances with Films. And I've been jury and script reader for other film festivals as well. I've also worked in distribution, and I'm very interested in distribution. I think it's like the thing that like too many filmmakers I think of last. And I am a big fan of Roger Corman, who said that why make a movie if you don't have a campaign? So I'm actually putting up a Seed and Spark right now. But that kind of brings you up currently to, what my experience is. At least some of it. Like I'm saying like I've worked on features, but that feels very, very broad. I've worked as an actor. I've worked as assistant producer. I've worked as first assistant camera, on features as well. So I am a jack of all trades, but I really want to be what I love is, working with actors and camera together at the same time.
Okay, so you just gave me like a bazillion questions by just one of
Man,
your answers.
yeah, no, totally. I've been around a bit. So,
Yeah, yeah. Hey, you don't look like it, by the way. Okay, so
well,
ending on the last thing that okay, I know it's off topic, but the whole phrase is like a jack of all trade is a master of none, but still better than a master of one. So people always forget the last line. So and to work on that is that
yeah.
yeah. Okay. So, in your experience, as you say, it's really broad. So, what do you think, in your experience, should someone just master in one thing, or more like yours is like getting knowledge of everything? Because as a director, I think one thing you should know all the time is you have to have good taste. You know what I mean? Like you have to have good taste in
Absolutely. I think
everything.
you nailed it on the head for me. Like I think that taste is everything. I think that developing that taste is very helpful. I don't I came into directing, much later than most of my undergrad colleagues. Most of them are in their early 20s and I'm 20 years older than that. And so my taste coming into it was really interesting because it's cultivated over years, but I think you really have to find your joy in the stuff that you want to touch on and I think that like whenever you're young, you don't know so much. So you're trying out everything and you can fall into, being a person that is okay with creating content versus someone that only wants to create what one would consider cinema or art house or whatever have you, right? I think there's an interesting argument to not maybe even not even argument, but an interesting conversation to be had on cinema versus content, for example. And don't get me started because I'm a philosophy nerd, so I will go deep into any, cinematic philosophy. But yeah, I think that it's really good to be as well versed in everything as you can be, but at the same time, it's not really required. I mean, there are some people that know absolutely nothing but like the one thing because they were given the opportunity and they ran with it. For me, I can speak to anybody whose like childhood has kind of been interrupted by tragedy or health problems because it set me off track by 20 plus years, and I was still able to kind of find my way back to probably where I would have ended up anyway.
Okay. Uh, I know it's personal and I apologize, and you can let me know if it is too early, but do you want to share about that experience if you want to and how much it changed your approach? Because obviously it's a big part of you.
Oh, like
Well,
cancer?
yes, the health reasons, if you're comfortable.
Oh,
If not, just let
yeah,
me know.
no, totally. I'm pretty much an open book. So cancer was the worst thing I would never wish it on anybody, really. It's not fun, especially chemotherapy, because at 18 years old, I was going through chemotherapy. I had my daughter already. My daughter was born whenever I was like just turned 18. And then I got cancer right midway through I want to say like I was diagnosed and had my surgery May or June whenever I was 18, and then I had lost all my hair by October from chemotherapy. And then I was, in and out of that for years because there was always like these little hints of like, things. And so it was a long, long period of time. I do not look good bald. Do not look good bald. But so I kind of like got the all clear when I was about 23. And then uh while there's a really odd moment that I'm very glad that I had, and I can't explain why, but when my mom passed from cancer, she was in the exact same hospice center that I was getting my cancer treatment from. And it's the place where she passed away. So I almost felt her there with me. And so whenever I would be there, like my dad would bring like the TV with the DVD player and we'd watch like there was one had one built in and we'd watch like a director's commentary or something like that, or I'd keep it overnight and watch it. I don't know. I had the the push to continue to dive in to the things that I loved. That was something that my mom was really good about encouraging. It's like if you love it, then just keep at it. And so, it didn't matter that, I had to have a move from one track to another for a little while to eventually come back because all of those things were such varied experiences that they really gave me a different taste. And it allowed me to see so much of the world that now whenever I come and approach my writing, I or directing or my experience with people of different places or different, experiences, um, all of that is colored the way that I am able to, approach story. So I mean, there's something to really be said about approaching death at a very young, age in life, and it's not just a one little flash in the pan, but it's kind of staring you every single day. It does definitely like change the way that you look at the world.
Mm. And I want to see that you worked on it and take it into a positive direction because it's easy to break your spirit when you're facing your mortality, when your life basically just began, you know.
Yeah, I guess like I don't know. I don't know if that this speaks to anybody out there or if it speaks to you or anything like that, but I think that you know you are at your most fierce and your most artistic at times whenever you are in the worst position. And while you may not be able to express that art right then, it doesn't mean that you are not at your most artistic and that you can't take some of that with you and turn it into art later. And so I think that a lot of the things that I have seen from generations of filmmakers and storytellers that like, or people that want to be, storytellers, is that those that make it, those that like really succeed are not the most talented. They're the ones that had the most grit. They're the ones that like, no matter what, we're gonna make it happen and didn't give up. And it's, I think that if there's anything to take from, what I experienced, is that you cannot give up. You can't. And if you encounter a problem that you don't know the answer to, that is never the end. That is the beginning. You have to really as a filmmaker, especially as a director, and honestly as a producer, a good producer, is that you have to like thinking about thinking while you're thinking. You really have to enjoy the process of thinking and problem solving and trying to get it right and wanting to look at it from all angles and to make sure that you're thinking about the entire thing and it's not just all vibes and no plan.
Okay. Uh, okay, so that brings me to the next question because as far as I say is like I was hearing uh, an interview from um, Guillermo del Toro, the amazing director. For those who don't know about The Shape of Water and other amazing movies, he said the director is not it directing is not about control. It's like just managing the chaos and making the chaos a better place.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And one thing I don't get is like most of the time, because what I have experienced, and I'm pretty sure you have too, is like sometimes when you plan too much, your creativity gets the blunt of it, if that makes sense. I love, like, for example, if I'm doing comedy, I love improv. And when I'm doing some and even if I'm doing drama, I love that some people just came up with like, okay, you're getting teary-eyed even though the script doesn't demand to. Okay, so let's just start trying, let's just say. So, what are your thoughts about that?
I think that as a young director, that is the most interesting way to usually start out is through improv. Like I found that whenever I was first starting to direct, that I used improv a lot more because I thought it gave me something. But as I've matured, I use it way less because I'm working with different types of actors. I'm working in different types of situations, and I need somebody that is not just going to help me figure it out on the fly, but is going to help me dig in, like really dig in, and not just go for the surface level of whatever the improv will give you, but then take it, another level beyond that and really do the work. Because that's the thing for me, is that I really, really, really love the work. I've never found that planning gets in my way. At some point in time, you have a deadline to meet to, but I will plan up until that deadline. And the reason that I will do that is because I love thinking about every single piece of it till it's dead. Like, and then whenever I get there, it's whatever the day is, if the plan works, the plan works. You manage the chaos and you make art.
Okay. Okay, I have to dig in deeper with that answer. So, when you say you plan and plan at the end of the day, so for example, if someone is watching this who's young and who relies on more chaos, so could you explain your process a bit more and give some
Well,
examples if you have?
well, I'm a writer director. So this would speak to those that are writer directors or are curious about writer director, but you know say I'll skip ahead a little bit. Say that I've already written the script. Now, what written the script means for me is that I already have a pitch deck. I have the script is done. I have I have marketing ideas already kind of organized in some sort of folder. I have like things that I've thought about while I was writing about how I would want to, pitch this. I typically already have a log line too, right? So now you go and you find a producing partner, right? That you want to work with and wants to work with you, and you're good together, and you are going to make the film, and it's going to happen in X amount of days. Let's give something, crazy, like you have 30 days to put it all together, right? Okay, you have 30 days to make this $35,000 feature, right? I'm just
Mhm.
plucking things out. $35,000 feature that takes place in two locations. Okay. Right. Maybe three. So let's go with three. Three is a fun number because it gives a little bit of a thing. So as soon as you start there, you are building your team, right? You're putting together your DP, you're putting and you're looping your DP on conversations. You might be talking to your DP, you know, a minimum of like once a week, if not more, right? And it's not just let's have a meeting. Sometimes you need to have a little bit of deeper because you need to talk about the emotion because good DP isn't just going to care about why it's being lit. A good DP is going to ask you, you know, what i- what is the emotion in this shot? What does the audience need to get out of it, right? If the DP doesn't ask that, I start to get worried about whether or not they care or whether or not they're aware enough of what the image is supposed to do, right? And that's part of my taste. I need somebody that is as dedicated to the image as I am because I am a very passionate individual. Because I think that, all of it matters. All of it matters. I believe that mise en scene is as important as, anything with the exception of sound. Sound is more important than anything. Haha.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, so you start building the DP, you start building your sound. If you got a sound person you already know and love, bring them in. That way you're not thinking about them whenever you're scouting and you're like, oh, I wish we had our sound person, or worse, you scout without sound and you don't know anything, right? So your producer should be bringing that in. You should already have your first AD, like all of those things, and everybody should be talking about everything, right? If you're going to take it seriously, it's not one of those things where it's a week out and now you guys are talking, right? It should be a thing where you as a team, me and my team, we all want to talk about this. We all want to be thinking about this. We are all semi-obsessed with, whatever the story, the image is, because that's the only way. That's the only way. If you don't care at least that, then there is no good way your film is going to touch people,
Okay.
you know? You have to have at least even it's usually either one person that cares enough for everyone and they are the driving force, or you have a whole team that all cares together. And that's where good stuff is made.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Okay, but okay, we a little bit. I'm sorry, man. So it's just more feels like it's about passion, as you say. It's about passion for the project and passion for everything, right? But my question still remains, and I'm a little bit curious about on that one. Like, for example, let's say your actor is like, okay, I read the script, Jan, and it doesn't. It feels good that you wrote everything, but I feel like this character would not say that. And oh, for example, that oh, I don't want to cry in this one. I just want to be like I just want to be like okay, I don't want to cry, but I want to give the impression that I'm crying.
Well, I
And
would first ask why, what they think, what leads them to that conclusion that that's the way to go.
yeah. And they say, for example, like, okay, I read the script and I was like, it will be more impactful if I don't cry. And the reaction of them is much more, because this feels like my character is just like holding it in. And then in the climax, you already wrote that it just burst out. So I want to hold that emotion throughout, if that makes sense, right? So when we are talking about planning, and when you said you already mentioned that everyone should be on the same page, from DP to AD to everyone, and actor, for example.
Mhm.
But obviously, anyone who wants to take anyone who has been on a film set, they know the fact that something's gonna go wrong. Definitely.
Sure, sure. Well, I think that that's why casting, which I had not yet gotten to, because
Mm,
you want to build your team up there, because casting typically happens right at once I've got first AD, DP, and producer and sound production design. Once I've got those guys all together, it's like it, as soon as I can, I'm casting, if not casting at the same time, right? And so I worked for something I didn't say is that I've also worked for a casting director, a CSA, right? Carlin Davis Casting in Washington, D.C. Amazing woman, amazing casting director. Just such a cool individual. I adore her. Her and Suzanne, who was her assistant at the time, I think still is, Suzanne Kang, amazing individuals. And I learned so much about how to cast good actors from working there. I actually ran their Baltimore office. And those kind of things that you're talking about that are happening on set with you are things that you should have already discussed with your actor before you even get to set.
okay. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Those are like it, you should go whenever you cast your actor, you should immediately, as soon as possible, get on the phone with them and have a hi, this is who I am. This is kind of like what the story I think is about. This is what I think about the character. What are your thoughts? What attracts you to it? What are you thinking? And if they say, oh, I haven't read the script yet, say, okay, can you do me a favor and read the script in the next 24, 48 hours? And then we will get on another thing and we'll go through the beats. All right. Now, if you have the ability to do that in physical rehearsal, face to face, instead of over phone or over Zoom, better, way better, way, way better. But you should be breaking down the script in at least some sort of Stanislavski way, right? Where you're going beat by beat. So you know you have your character, you know what the character's objective is in every single beat. Right. So that whenever this actor comes to you and says, well, I think this, you have already worked through that. And now, if it comes up and this actor comes to it, it's not a question of ego or anything like that, which can so often be interpreted as. It is instead, a real conversation on the depth of the moment that you both can approach.
Okay. Okay, so that gives me another answer and a question. So it's that's okay. So that's a good answer. Like we have to work on the scripts and give them some
You
detail,
have
right?
to. You have to break it down. You have to break the script down.
Mm,
It's not just breaking it down for shot lists.
mm,
That's the easy part. You need to break down the emotional beats for every single beat. And I mean, I, you know, I love Stanislavski for that. Like as an actor, like it helped me learn how to break down scenes. It's
mm.
if you learn how to do it and you do it over and over and over again, it becomes easy. It's a little hard at first because you're learning how, you have to really get a good definition of what objectives are, right? And how to, and also like it really helps to have a thesaurus full of adverbs so you can then translate what those objectives are to an adverb to the actor.
Okay. So another follow-up, since you have already worked as an actor and you're well versed with Stanislavski and most probably Utah Hagen and other
I love Iowa.
P and other method actors and teachers, basically. What about the people who do not have any acting background, or who do not, who are like, okay, you're the actor, I'm the director, let's drive this thing together. What about those
So
people?
as a director, it's my responsibility to give them the tools to do well.
Okay.
Right. So if I will talk to my actor frankly and say, and not really frankly, but just candidly, like where are you coming from? What's your experience been? What drew you to acting? What drew you to this role? What now that you're casting it, like how are you feeling? Do you have any techniques? If you have no techniques, are you open to like working with me on some things? And let's experiment together to find out how we can find those beats for you. Like you have to like you're there for them.
I'm sorry, Jen. I think I miscommunicated the question. I was talking about the directors who does not have your background of extensive acting.
Well then, I mean, there's cheat codes,
Okay.
right? There's total cheat codes. Um, I would say if you are coming at this for the first time, then just pick up, I don't want to say just pick up, but a good resource is Judith Weston's book, Directing Actors,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Especially just like the last chapter is probably one of the most helpful things. She has a thing about cue cards that like about a little index card thing that one director that she knows keeps in his pocket at all times. And anytime he's got an actor problem, he pulls it out to look at it, right?
Okay.
And Judith Weston's great at that. I think that if you're coming into a project and you don't know anything about acting, and you're coming in strong, I think that that's a really, really good start. Judith Weston's a good start. After that, if you're coming in to direct a play, I think his name is Ibrahim Murray. He's a British theater director. He's got a book called How to Direct a Play that is a really, really good way of just like launching yourself into that world. And he's got some good ideas. He's got some really smart, good like ideas. So, I think that if you're a film producer and you're coming into not knowing, much about filmmaking at all, and, you want to understand these things, then I think that, you know, Uta Hagen really kind of helps because she's so grounded in the world. And as a producer, that gets you thinking about the world that you're building for the actor. Um, but yeah, I mean, for me, if you don't have access to those things, which like, hopefully everybody knows about the website archive.org because you can find probably almost all of these things on archive.org. It's free. Um, but if you don't have time, if you're shooting tomorrow, right? You don't have time to do any of those things. You're shooting tomorrow, then the best thing to do is to remember that it's all about the relationships of the actor, of the characters, and it's all about the relationship between you and the actor. You want to build that trust, and don't want to let the time that it, you let your first AD worry about how much time you're taking, right? If you have a first AD that's worth their damn, then let them worry about how much time you're taking. In the meantime, you know, I would be on the phone with my actor right now if I was shooting tomorrow and I just got thrown in to say, "Hi, how are you thinking about this?" If it's like a short film or if it's something like that, or that I don't think that would happen on a feature, but you never know. Crazier things have happened where you're just like boom and you're in. But at the very least, I'd be calling my cast and I would be calling my DP and I would be trying to like get everybody on the same page. But if you are say you're directing an emotional scene, right? Say you're directing an emotional scene, you're talking about crying, and you don't, you've not had a chance to talk to the actor. You're coming in, you're a little nervous. You're not sure what to do. You're not sure how to approach the scene. You know, the script says for the person to cry, but it doesn't really say give a good reason why. So now you've got to invent a reason why or something like that. You know, maybe the writing's a little, the writing's not very strong. Then I personally would, you know, really truly break down that script as best you can to understand what the conflict is in each scene. And then go to the actor and say, hey, this is what I think is happening. What do you think is happening?
Okay, so you brought up the buzzword conflict by Robert McKee. I love that guy, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's the most generic. Those who don't know, Robert McKee is one of the most famous writer of the book Story,
Hmm.
and he's
Also, dialogue and action.
one of the best. If you want to start from somewhere, that would be the best place to start. Okay, so my question would be like, when you started with almost no budget, and what was your approach, and what did you learn, and what was your transition from something like basically from nothing and making features and working with critic choice award-winning actors? And what would be your suggestion for the people who are transitioning or thinking about transitioning from almost a hobby to something serious?
Well, why make a movie if you don't have a campaign? Why make a feature film if you don't have a reason to put it out into the world? So, my advice is think about distribution first at while you're making and developing and, you know, in pre-production all the way through that. Think about how you're going to market, where you're going to sell this film. Your producer should be thinking about that. It should not be an afterthought. That's rookie mistake. You should be thinking about how your movie is going to get out there from day one. Filmhub.com is, you know, one of the best places. I think that, like, especially for streaming, like that's probably where you're going to go most, but you want to start there. Okay. If you, no matter where you're going, whether you make something with a budget or not, just do yourself a favor and see what your film does on Film Hub. Okay, so filmhub.com is a distribution website for streaming platforms. This is where, you know, you as an independent filmmaker should start if you want to get your film streaming. Even if you it's no budget. I've been a part of absolutely like no budget feature films. I've made and acted in a few of those. Mostly acting, but you know, they do funny things on the internet. People pick them up, they get streamed, that you get it, you make some of that money that you put out, you know, and you're able to pay off some of that credit card debt. So, you know, go to filmhub.com should be a space that you get to know because it'll teach you a lot about the distribution model, the distribution side, who's interested in what, and ultimately about deliverables and what you're responsible for.
Okay. And okay, so if someone, okay, you already touched upon this, like from filmhub.com. Like, for example, if someone is doing this for as a hobby and they were like, okay, I now I have to get serious. And I already talked to you about prep, but what would be the things like if you suggest that person, okay, let's say I'm Abhi as a coming up to you and saying, okay, Jen, I'm doing this for a long while. Now I want to get serious. What would be your advice to me?
Well, find a story that you're serious about and take it seriously. Um, you know, it's really about the belief in the story and whatnot. If you're ready to make that leap, then there's so many little avenues and weird ways that people go about getting films made. You know, I've seen $5 million horror movies that were horrible, but the owner of it was shot in a mansion that this guy was able to buy. for and then shoot on it and claim it as a tax expense, probably in some way, shape, or form. And so it was worth his while to be a producer on this not very good horror film that was clearly made by like real estate agents, right? You know, like you have those, and you're like, why does it should that exist? But you also have like the little gems and things like that, and so you have to kind of understand like the kind depending on the kind of movie you want to make is going to depend on the kind of places that you're probably going to pull funding from, right? And so for me, whenever as somebody says like I want to be serious, then the first thing you got to think about is money. Where are you getting money from?
Okay, and what would be your advice? Like, what should you do? Like, reach out to people or reach it online?
I think that like depending on your personality and the way that your pitching ability, really, if you are a person that like me, I love pitching. Oh my God, give me a floor. I will pitch you everything. Every story I've got, I'll pitch you. I love pitching. Um, so if you're like me, then there's really fun avenues within crowdfunding, like you've got your Indiegogos or your Seed and Sparks. I'm actually going through a Seed and Spark now for a theater play that I'm putting up in June for the Hollywood Fringe. And so we're getting ready to start our fundraising campaign. We just got our pitch video together. Like it's been a very interesting experience because I've never done that before. And I was, there's that avenue. There's the, traditional avenue where you find like an investor who believes in you or believes in the story or believes in some part of it, or you've got an actor's name attached and they bring money from people that are, interested in being a part of it because their name is attached and they know they'll make some money back. You know, there are a lot of calculations that happen. So it depends on, what your story brings to the table as far as what avenues you'll go. But there's quite a lot. And if you're clever, if you're a clever marketer, or if you know somebody who is a clever marketer that you like working with, and you can start cooking up like who's going to be your audience. I mean, I feel like I'm getting a little off topic, but I just want to say that as a writer, director, and producer, I'm an audience supremacist. I care about the audience so much. And so I think that it's really helpful as someone who wants to wants to have a serious voice to think about the audience that you're catering to. And so I think that that's a really, really good thing for like directors. You're going to put yourself out there for the audience. So really get to know the audience.
Okay, to follow up on that, first of all, like I know you love pitching. I see you pitch once in a while, and I'm a great fan. So well, it's part of your personality, but someone is not like, let's say, like me. They're more introvert. What would be your tips? Like, obviously, passion follows through, right? If you're passionate about the story, they follows through. What else?
My passion is a side effect of some really good habits that I picked up. Um, I learned how to use the passion before it, because otherwise it's just everywhere. But I would say that one, a book that was really, really helpful and helping me think about how to structure a pitch was the Hollywood Pitching Bible. I think it's by Ken Aguino. That book really, really instrumental in how I approach, and how I think about pitching.
Okay. And okay, so that book, and what else? If there's any other thing.
I would also say that overall as a producer, right, thinking about these things, that the Maureen A. Ryan's book, Producer to Producer, great book about like, thinking about the nuts and bolts of your film. But beyond that, I would say that, yeah, you start with friends and family, but that's only going to get you so far. So you're going to need to build up either an audience or find a place where the audience already exists and you can throw your idea out there and see what the audience does with it.
Okay, about the audience front, like for example, there's like one story I truly love because I lived through it. Like for example, something of a reminiscence of like Just someone is a character or main character has just been crushed down, and at the end they win something with the help of people. It's good for me. I know exactly in and out, but I cannot never tell that if everyone else will love it or audience will love it.
Hmm.
So how do you go about that? If you
Well, this is where again, I think that it's really helpful to have a one-liner or a log line before before you start writing. Because once you get a log line, you kind of really understand by simplifying the story down to like this, you wind up empowering yourself because you know what the story is. And I don't know, I guess if you figure that out for yourself, it's just gonna make your life easier, like really try and get your log line down. Really try and get your log line down.
okay, that's a really good advice. Thank you
So
for
for example, right? Okay, okay, I said I had a play, right?
yes.
And so this play is crazy because it takes place at a time and place. It's a historical satire, right? I'm using this as an example, and also it's part of a plug. But I think it's a good example because it's such a wild story that it's set in the year 325 AD for our purposes. I know it's CE, but 325 AD, right? So this is like 1700 years ago, exactly 1700 years ago. So these are crazy. These we don't. Their culture is so far beyond ours that how would we understand anything about it, right?
Yeah.
So how do you tell that to an audience? How do you explain that in a really, really good way so that you know you get the story? Because otherwise you're going to be talking about it forever. It's like, well, then this happens and then this happens and then this happens. Oh, and then this happens. I forgot about this part because you can't, you're so excited about all the things, right?
Okay. Well, you already told me about that, so I cannot answer this. Uh, yeah, go for. I want to hear the log line again.
Oh, sure, sure, sure. So, yeah, for example, okay, here's the log line for this. In 325 AD, at the Emperor Constantine the Great's court at the Palace of Nicaea, four unruly bishops raise havoc, turning holy debates into unholy laughter as they debate the nature of Christ. Is he the same as God or similar to? Who knows? But Emperor Constantine, who knows nothing about religion, is going to figure out or have somebody's head.
Okay. Okay. That's bravo. That's one of the best line. It hooked me up right away. Okay, so that's a really good example.
That's what I'm saying. Like, now you know the story.
Yeah.
And it doesn't like you if you're caught in an elevator and you're fucking Steven Spielberg's right there and he's like, oh, you're a filmmaker, you got a story, and I do I
Yes. Yes. That's a really good tool, Jan. Thank you very much for
Yeah,
giving.
no, it's work on your log line so hard, and like just don't let it go. You can't let it go. And once you got it, like I've got oh man, I've got a play that I want to put up, I think next year for the Hollywood Fringe, right? I don't think I've ever told you about this story, right? And I'll give you, let me give you the log line real quick, just to show you an example and see whether or not it works twice.
Okay.
All right. Second log line. Um, Simone, a feminist philosophy grad student, ghosts Arthur, a 29-year-old inept incel, who then kidnaps her in order to find out why.
Oh, oh yeah, it gives me almost everything and at the same time no spoilers. So I'm already hooked. Oh my god. Okay, I need to find your pro. I need to know your process. You have to spill some secrets about the log line, sir.
Oh
I'm not
man,
letting you
so
go.
log lines, like you just really got to think about like I love log lines. I can talk log lines so much. Like, okay. So like, all right, give me a story that like you're having a problem with a log line on.
Okay, Okay, we are not going to. Oh, okay, I already uploaded it. So, for example, it's a story about a guy who is going to somewhere in all black, and his brother, who is actually the twist is that he's actually dead, and he's talking to his dead brother all the time, and basically saying, "I'm sorry that you ended yourself because I went away and you took all the responsibility." That's the whole story. And in the end, you find out that the brother was actually not alive. And that's the whole short story. Uh, okay,
Okay.
give me a log.
What were the burdens?
The burden was that he moved away thinking that he's the burden on the family. But when he moved away, he realized he was not. He was holding his own in some way. And the brother took his role as well. And that drove him to just giving up.
Okay. And the is it older brother, younger brother?
The brother that is alive is the older brother.
And the one who commits suicide, is that what happens? He commits suicide?
Yeah, younger brother
Okay.
is.
So the one who commits suicide is the younger brother?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So for me, thinking about this, my process first starts at thinking about it's the stress on which the younger brother was going through. So it's an older brother carries the weight of a younger brother's grief as what are they doing it in the story exactly?
Now they're just talking, so it's a more about
Where are they talking?
so in his house, he's basically he's getting ready for his funeral. We don't know it yet, by the way. And he sees his brother. First time, he's just being annoying the other younger brother, talking about it. But as you go along in the story, he becomes quite annoying, and at the end, he's almost accuses him for.
Of course, the anger is there. Like you had to go through all of it.
Yeah, so it's all that. And at the end, we found out the brother is not alive and he's just imagining saying sorry before leaving for his funeral. Or I can give you another one if you want.
No, 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 no. I love this. I love this. Don't let me go on this. I'm
Okay.
thinking about this. Like I'm really now you got me invested, right?
Yeah.
Because I can see it in my mind. I can totally see it in my mind. By the way, do you know you know what? That's a different question. I'll connect you with somebody who I think that you would really enjoy. Arthur. Arthur. I don't know if you met Arthur, but Arthur's amazing. Um so okay, so an older brother uh, an older brother is they're locked kind of like I wouldn't say I don't want to give it away by using like words like haunted, you don't want to give it away because I really like how that's the part of it that you don't know till the end. So an older brother carry older yeah, hold on. I think I'm on to something. On the longest walk of his life, well, maybe not longest walk. I don't know. I see it more as them walking for some reason, but like on the longest day of his life, an older brother and younger brother spar over the a death in the family.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let me give you one more detail. It's like they're reminiscing about past, and suddenly the brother is
Yeah,
bringing up all the bad things he did, and at the end,
for sure.
like,
That's why I say spar because like
mm,
what I'm trying to do, what I would be trying to do is both tell you what happens, but not tell you what happens.
okay, okay,
Right. And so let me try again. What I said was on the day of a family funeral, an older brother and younger brother spar over a death in the family.
okay.
Does
Oh,
that
yeah. Okay,
right?
okay. That's really effective. Okay, you have to do one more because you did that one really good. Okay. Okay, this story is about an individual.
Hmm.
who he has Native American roots. I did some research on that, and he's a coda. Basically, a coda is someone who goes to places which are haunted by ghosts, and they talk to him in a friendly way. Coda means a friend in Native American.
Is this Algonquin?
Uh, what?
What's the language that they would be speaking?
It's said in modern times. So they're speaking in English, but his
The
lineage.
language of the where you get the word coda. Where do you get that? What word? What tribe speaks that language?
Okay, it's not on top of my head right now, but
The
it
reason I ask is because way far back somewhere, there's rumors that like my somebody in my family was Cherokee, and I loved that as a kid, and so, I'm always very curious about languages, especially around Cherokee languages, but I wasn't sure if that was what the language was with Coda.
okay. So he's a coda, so he didn't know it yet, right? His father knew. And out of nowhere, he's just living in his life and he's in his apartment, and ghosts come visit. He doesn't know it yet, right?
Mm.
And his motto is that to tell them what they are stuck here about. One of them is a grieving um, divorcee who drank herself from death because she was tired, and her kid went out and he gone missing. The other one was literally beaten to almost he's not uh,
Wait, how many kids?
uh just one kid. And there's this.
And so what are the other units?
Okay, so he's being visited by ghosts. So the one of the ghost is the individual who is a divorcee who drank herself to death because her kid went missing because she was sleeping because she was too tired. It was her first kid, so she basically drank herself to
And she's a
death.
ghost.
Yes. And the other ghost is the other individual. He's not a ghost. He's just he's just struggling with schizophrenia. He made himself a girlfriend, a virtual girlfriend, imaginary girlfriend, but it's causing him problems with his he's not normal, obviously. He wants to go out and make connections, but he's not normal, and he is refusing to take the medication because he's like, okay, I'm gonna lose someone who cares about me. And the third one is that one kid who is
I just
basically.
want to ask real quick. The ghost is on medication?
No. The second one is not a ghost. He's just a friend.
Oh, okay.
He's just.
So the mother is the ghost.
Yeah, and we don't find out about it till the end. Again, the themes sometimes overlap. I apologize. And
Don't apologize. Why are you apologizing?
okay, so the third one is a kid who has been uh, witnessing physical abuse from his stepfather, and he's trying to protect himself, and he runs away from houses, and there's that. And the last individual is his dad, and he's a ghost too. And he just wants the kid, the individual in the climax. We found out that he's a ghost too. And his dad, I mean the main character's dad. Okay, I have to give you names. Fuck. Okay, so the
Okay, wait,
main.
wait, wait, wait. Hold on, though.
Okay,
So what I'm trying to understand is like you've got two ghosts and three live people.
uh, two ghosts and two live people.
Okay.
No, three life people. The life people, the main antagonist, let's call him
Okay.
A. He's the one who has all the magical abilities to see ghosts and people.
Adult or child?
Huh? The
Adult or
adult.
child?
The adult.
Okay, and his name is well, no, I don't need a name. Wizard. He's a wizard.
Yeah, he's a coda.
Right. Okay. So Coda. All right. Cool. And so, but the good, and then you've got the child who's the protagonist.
No, he's one of the supporting characters.
Okay. So who's the protagonist?
The coda.
So who's the antagonist?
No one.
Then you don't have a story.
Okay. So it's okay. Okay, you got me in a ball, dude. Okay. Okay, so the antagonist is, I see it as such that he is reluctant. The Coda is reluctant at first and of helping them out.
Why?
And he's like, okay, it's none of my business, and why am I even doing this? And all of that, right? He's one with like he's not happy with his life, and he's not willing to accept what is being going on.
So it sounds like you've got your this is like the reluctant hero step,
Yes.
right? Okay. Okay. So you have a reluctant hero. Uh, so how does he encounter these individuals?
Okay, so I changed it because of the budget, but it's basically because the ghosts come to him to, and he attracts people who are in need,
Hmm.
and he has to help him out to go uh to pass away to the other plane, and the people
Why
who are
is he cursed to like? Is that like why is he?
yeah.
Why do people in need find him?
It's his lineage. He's a coda, so it's a Native
Okay,
American
so it's something
Hindu.
that he can't help.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
his Hindu lineage. Okay, so there's that. So his father who's dead, who the reason he is a ghost is because he wants to pass through his legacy to his son, which is missed out. And the woman who drank herself to death, it's because of her grief. And the individual who is alive, who is struggling with insomnia, not insomnia, schizophrenia, who wants to live a normal life but is conflicted with the fact that I made an imaginary girlfriend out of my sickness, but I don't want to take medication because that's the only person who cares about me.
Yeah, but that's I s- the antagonist is the thing.
Hmm. Okay, so yeah, I don't have an antagonist.
Then you don't have a story.
Okay. Okay, so I'll have to work on that. Okay, scrap that idea.
Yeah, because
Forget
yeah,
the last 10 minutes about
well,
your life.
I mean, you can have the reluctant hero, but you're gonna need something that pushes him, or else he's just a reluctant hero. And what you really want to get at is his change, and that change can't come unless there's a force, a conflict that's driving him, right?
Hmm. Okay.
So this is where knowing your log line helps because I can already tell you that like I know what his thing is. I know what's happening to him, but I don't know what I don't know what he's got to encounter.
Okay. Because he's gonna
Because you don't
encounter.
you don't have obstacles. You've got annoyances, but those aren't obstacles because he doesn't even have an objective. His objective is just to walk the earth. Is he like, is this I mean, that worked for a while on the TV show Kung Fu, so good job. But also, he was also running from his past.
Okay, you gave me a lot to think about. Okay, so I'll work on that. And thank you very much for this. Thank you,
Sure.
absolutely. Thank you very
No,
much.
I think that like again, Hollywood Pitching Bible, great book, great
Mm.
book. Really, really enjoyed it. Really got a lot out of it. Props to those guys because they really break down that process. Um, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna let you go with the long line. I'm gonna give you one more. Okay. Okay. One last. Okay. Okay. It's a sitcom, right? It's a
Okay.
sitcom about four roommates, and the main antagonist is the antagonist is none. So the emotional storyline is that the main straight man and he's going through some relationship trouble and the girlfriend keeps coming in his life. The other guy is basically he's basically Batman but without any he just goes in and out of frame. He's like almost invisible to all other two people. And the third one is if you've seen How I Met Your Mother, he's a Barney-esque character. You haven't seen the movie? Okay, so he's basically one of those okay. Oh my God, we are talking too much. We only have 10 minutes left, so it's that. You know what? I want to cut this off right now because we are missing a lot of points. Or are you free to do one more in the future?
We can do one more after this.
Okay. 45
And
minutes
I
again.
and I don't have like nobody's hit me up on anything like that's an emergency yet. So
Okay. Okay.
I say that because whenever you're producing a play, like anything could happen.
Okay.
Do you know how many emergencies have happened like in the last since we've been on this thing and then been solved? That's the life of a play.
Okay. Sure. Sure about that thing though. I really want to hear about it.
Oh, okay. Well, this is theater though. But okay. So you know what I suggest to people that really want to direct, people that really, really, really want to direct whenever they get out of film school is to do a play.
Okay. Okay, because after the curtain is up, you're basically helpless as a director, right?
Well, once the play starts,
Hmm.
the play belongs to the actors.
Yeah. And you're just like, okay.
You are there through rehearsal to guide them as well as you can, and then on the show date, it's up to them.
Mm. Yeah. So, okay, that's something very.
Now, as a playwright, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Mm.
Um, as a playwright, as somebody who's both writing the play and directing the play, then you are able to kind of tweak the script more because it is your script and you're trying to make it as best as you can. But there's also a point where you should probably let the actors find their way and not tweak too much, right?
Mm, okay. Okay, so is it a, as you suggest, it's a really learning exercise of like, um, well, even the chaos happens on the stage, you cannot control it once the curtain is up. So there's that. Oh, that goes a long way for the prep work. So I really want you to whip out your binder. I love that word binder.
Yeah.
I want
So
people to
I
not.
actually I keep a direct this is my my director's notebook. It's for every play, movie, anything I've seen is like notes, right? Or an episode that I watched. This was like Star Wars commentary episode 1. I watched the director's commentary of Star Wars episode 1 when and made notes about everything George Lucas said.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
this was that's called homework and education. So
You know, and then looking at like is oh yeah, like looking at DPs, different works, blocking things out, you know.
that's cool.
I think that I really think that having a journal is absolutely necessary. You have to journal because if you're not capturing your thoughts, in some way, shape, or form, I really love having a journal and my audio recorder together. I use my audio recorder, like if, especially as I'm writing, I'll hear dialogue between two characters, but I don't have time to write, right? I'm on a walk with my dog. So I'll just start recording my voice and I'll be the two characters and do dialogue that way. And then you use Apple has a transcription thing, right? So you just copy that and then edit it and then put it into your script.
okay, that's a really good tool. And uh,
So this is, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, 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 please go ahead.
So this is my playbook for my play, Oh Constantine. This I treat this just like I would a film. Whenever I had my thesis film, which was Scholastic Affair, it had its own thing. And it's in my office over there. But so this has its own in it. I have my own separate journal, right? This journal just for this play, where it goes through how it started, looking at different blocking and how I wanted to block things out. Like these are periactoi, which are three-sided towers. Imagine like 8 foot tall by 2.5 foot wide triangle towers, and each side looks like a different location. So you'd have
Okay.
3 sides that are all wood, 3 sides that are all stone, 3 sides that are all mosaic,
Okay. Oh, okay.
right? And so this would be for all stone because this is the palace, right?
Okay.
And this is where your actors come in. This is your PowerPoints for where they're going to land on stage, right? So you've got here's an X for center stage, where's our lead Constantine is going to be. Like you got to think about these things.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, so you keep the same thing about the camera angles, like
Yeah,
you work with tactics.
exactly. And then, you break down your stages, right? This is scene 1. This is scene That's with scene one and two. Actually, this is scene three. It might be a little hard. I probably need to bring up the light. But
It's completely fine. We don't want spoilers, so it's fine.
well, no, you're not gonna know what this is. It's just showing you that like the work that's kind of gone into it, and then a lighting plan there. You get into script notes, like all of it, and then regular notes, a
Okay.
protractor to make sure you draw out like your page.
Okay. And how much time it took before anything happened? And obviously, it helps a
Oh,
lot.
you okay, okay. So I wrote this as a sitcom 2 years ago. In a 422 class. Um, and it was a sitcom. We were supposed to write a sitcom, and it was the stupidest thing I could think of. So, and because it's about an actual event that happened in history called the Council of Nicaea that happened 1700 years ago, where they voted on the divinity of Christ, right? And I always found this hilarious. And so I was like, you know what? What if I take Who's the Boss meets The Golden Girls meets Monty Python meets Joseph Heller meets Succession and throw it together in a sitcom? And I write out the first episode in like a Blackadder style. And I did that. It was really fun. It was really dumb. And then I showed it to some British producer friends of mine, and they were like, "We need to see this. I want to see this as a play." And that's how the whole thing started. And that was in December.
Well, I'm already laughing thinking about how you wrote it. So there's that.
Yeah.
And
I wrote Yeah, I made it into a play. It's taken me since this it's from December, well, really January. I really started in January. So January, February, we had our table read in March. And then April, May, June, and we going up in June. So yeah.
okay. Um, it leads to my next question, Jen, and I'm loving this conversation, by the way. I'm learning a lot, and I really appreciate you taking your time and bearing with my ADHD. I'm gonna
No,
blame it a
I
lot
love it.
in
No,
that.
no, no. You're just human.
Yep.
ADHD is just a term for human.
Okay. So one of my question, it's one of my personal question, is that um, as you okay, I have to phrase it better. Okay, as your taste grows, right?
Mm.
As your taste grows and you move on with your um style, you develop your style. Sometimes you change, you deconstruct yourself and moving forward, right? It sometimes feels like, personally, I don't know. First time it feels like it feels wrong sometimes. You know what I mean?
No, what do you mean?
I mean, like, okay, that's why I wanted to phrase it better. It means like, um, okay, it happens to you sometimes. Like you write comedy and comedy and comedy, and out of nowhere you write a drama.
Sure.
Yeah, right. And you feel like,
You're
oh my,
you're gonna go through different emotions. You're gonna write different things depending on your art.
yeah, and it just sometimes I feel like I have a whiplash of some remnants of what I did in the past that I didn't like. Like for example, I had a really bad habit to put some sometimes distasteful jokes in between something very serious, right?
It
And
relieves the pressure.
yeah, and you just see it and you be like, okay, what the hell am I doing? And
Yeah,
this
I mean,
happened to you?
okay. So you bring up an excellent point. Taste. Okay, there is this gap between your taste and your ability, right? And this gap, this is what nobody tells you. This gap takes a while to fill, right? It takes a way. It takes a long time to like catch up to, and you may never catch up to it because your taste is currently constantly evolving, and your abilities are always trying to catch up to that. And that's kind of the way it will always be.
Okay. Uh, so for example, like uh, okay, someone let's say Well, one of the best examples of someone changing the direction entirely in a matter of in a matter of a film was like the great Steven Spielberg. Like one day he was making Jaws and Jurassic Park, and the next movie was The Schindler's List, and I was like, oh my God, I never seen someone made that jump so good and so well. Or maybe
That
I'm
makes it. So I think that that should be. I think that should not be surprising.
okay.
I think that like if you look at Jaws, Jaws is an exploitation film, right? It's exploiting your fear of sharks. It's an exploitation film. It's exploiting some sort of zeitgeist to get your attention,
Okay.
right?
And
That's what exploitation film does. That's why it exploits something. It's either exploiting like your feelings about women or exploiting your feelings about sharks, but Jaws is an exploitation film in the very Roger Corman style, um with amazing actors. Roy Schreider just destroys that. He's so good. Oh, but you go to, do Jurassic Park, right? Another monster movie, returns to his roots, but it's a monster movie that like he's proven himself. Also, you're missing in between that like there's also like Close Encounters of the Third Time. There's The Color Purple,
yeah.
right? And so he went towards stories that like, he felt were for him really compelling.
Yeah. And right.
Minority Report.
Oh yes. Oh, I love that movie is one of the most underrated. I love that movie. I literally saw it like three times already since it's free.
Didn't he do AI?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. But right now if you see his films, it feels like he doesn't like if you see Ready Player One, it doesn't ooze that uh, passion or that charisma that he used to have. And you
Well,
possess his Fable names.
I think that that again is like whenever your abilities of that could be the thing where like your your taste isn't up to the story. There's things about this like it is conceptually correct, but it lacks the heart.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what I felt was like he was more of like, I want to make more, uh, the Fablemans, or I want to make Bridges of Spy, and I want to make some deep, detailed drama movies, and I don't want to do that again that I already have achieved in my entire life, and no one
Sure,
can.
why would you?
Yeah, and
Why would you?
yeah, and he
I
took one
mean,
of.
I totally agree with that. My first film was like almost an activist film, right? And then my second film was an activist film. And the third film was a more personal film about like a relationship between my dad and I. And then the films I made after that were all like completely different in so many different ways, um, because I was really trying to explore all of the different ways and avenues that like the story took me. My thesis film, which I made on my own at CSUN, um is a period piece from set in 1959. I built a rain machine for it.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
Yeah. Yeah, I we had a it was I'll give you the log line. Ha, ready?
Please.
All right. On a stormy night in a university parking lot in 1959, a student's misguided attempt to expose her professor in an affair goes sideways when she calls his bluff and his wife.
Oh God! Oh, I want to see this. I want to see.
Right. So I mean, that's the power of a log line. I love a good, bam, right? I gave you almost nothing and you want to see it. It's magic.
Yes, it is magic, and I would, yeah, I would love to go weekend in the near future whenever you have time. Okay.
Yeah, totally. So with that being said, like it's, that was a rat. That was almost experimental. I mean, in a lot of ways, it is experimental because I'm For that, I really watched a lot of the 1950 like melodramas, like the Douglas Sirk films, to kind of get a style that I wanted to play around with. And they always told such, such, ugly stories so pretty, right? That Douglas Sirk really took like an ugly story and made it kind of pretty in a really, fun and sexy sometimes way, even for the time. Like, and his female characters were always kind of like had this really interesting, character arc. And so I was fascinated by that. I wanted to play with it, but I wanted to decolonize it, right? I didn't want to do it just like as a white melodrama. And I wound up being able to partner with an amazing playwright who had written a story. We worked together on it and created a vision for the film, and that's the film that went through. And it's completely different than anything I'd ever made before. I think that if anybody goes to see my play and they see that historical satire and then they show up to see this film, they may not know what to do.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about one thing. It's a little bit off topic, right? But since you consume a lot of media, as you in your own words, let's talk about something that we were talking about on call, and I got the idea of like what the movies that inspired you and what was your style developed throughout. So we mentioned in the call, well, those people who didn't know, we talked about oh my God, I'm skipping. We talked about Catherine Bigelow. I think she's well known, but other directors as well. And I would like you to chime in for that.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we talked about I love Sidney Lumet. I think that he is a actor's director. I think that the way that if you ever get a chance to read his book, Making Movies, wonderful book. Wonderful book for directors to read. To me it's almost a Bible. After that, we can get into the woods about Harold Clurman and Elia Kazan as well. But I really love his book. And then Roger Corman's book. Oh my God, Roger Corman's book is amazing. It's called How I Made 100 Movies in Hollywood and Never Lost a Dime. Amazing book. Amazing book. I mean, Jack Nicholson's quoted in there. Boris Karloff is like, it's just there's so many fun stories. And it's such a good time like, it's a good romp. Um, and then I love the style of Seijun Suzuki. I think that the way that he paints a visual image is really, really fun. It's such a wild, wacky, weird, like the writing's crazy, but the visuals are wonderful. You get it anytime you get around like some really good original psychedelia in film. You can kind of see what they were trying to experiment with camera work, especially. Like Roger Corman's The Trip, for example. Great example of like how the 60s writer is trying to interpret some of these visual experiences. Um, and also like crazy stuff. Like I don't know that I'm proud of this, but I watched the director's commentary of Braveheart because nobody knew who Mel Gibson was at that period of time, but his director's commentary just broke down battle scenes to me, just completely. I was like, I understand. Okay, so you did it this way, and then you edited that way, and then you shot this and you changed it. And like, it was just like a wake-up call on what you could do. Paul Verhoeven on RoboCop, he did the director's commentary. Oh my God, I love Paul Verhoeven. Like RoboCop, Total Recall, Basic Instinct, although that's kind of like, especially with what Sharon, Stone has said about his style. But Paul Verhoeven has done some really interesting things, like, and he talks about it in his director's commentary. So I really like, I'm a big fan of that. But there's so many that like affected me. Mel Brooks, oh my God, Mel Brooks's director's commentaries are the best. They're the best.
Okay. What about like what I'm thinking about Paul Verhoeven? I love him too. Starship Troopers and
Oh yes, what a satire! What
yes,
great satire about military propaganda.
Yes, and I think he's underrated, even though his movies are really popular, RoboCop, Basic Instinct, all of this. But I think as a director, he's really, really
I mean, I
underrated.
was introduced. My mom was kind of ahead of the curve. My mom was okay with me watching scary movies at a young age. I remember watching whenever American Werewolf in London premiered on HBO. I remember watching it whenever it came on, right, as a young man, and watching, Rob Bottin's work, as making the werewolf transform with Stan Winston or Rob Bottin's work in RoboCop and then Starship Troopers. What a great satire of like military propaganda. Robert Heinlein novel. I love Heinlein. So, well, he's got his own little things. Again, everybody's kind of problematic from that era, but Robert Heinlein stories are always really kind of fun and interesting. Um, I think that there's so many there's so many great filmmakers to kind of like see how their style works and what you can take from it and continue to work on that taste.
Yes, yes. And one director I want to throw in there is, well, he's famous now, Denis Villeneuve. And I loved, like, with all my heart, that was my whole personality with Blade Runner 2049.
Mm.
Someone who took a concept and make it his own. Like, he is one of the director that made his sequel made the original more better, and which I have never seen in my entire life almost. And I love his character. And I was listening about his I'm not sure if you've seen it. Cinefix has Cinefix, who does not know, is a YouTube channel, and they have a segment that says my favorite shots. And every shot that he picked, he said his motivation was it's always about the character, even though it's a big budget film with a lot of action scenes. But he was always like, okay, I love this shot because this character, I love that how intimate is to this character, and I'm like,
Yeah,
wow, that's the best thing.
yeah. I
And
mean, you can't like somebody else has got to worry about all that other stuff because your job is to make sure the actors have what they need.
yes. And
You
yes,
know the amount of work it took for the actor to get to that scene. You celebrate that and you support that for the rest of your life, really, because those relationships can last forever.
yes, yes. Like Scorsese and Robert De Niro, they're forever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's you cultivate those relationships so that everybody is on the same page about the level of taste. There's no because that's another thing too is that like whenever you're first starting out, there's a lot of you know realizing that like maybe this person has a better taste in one and you have another taste in another, and there's it's really kind of jarring there at the beginning because you feel like you need to like defend your tastes or to protect them in some way instead of letting somebody else's taste kind of like uh looking through someone else's lenses and seeing their taste and not from a perspective of like I don't know if I want to agree to this.
Yeah, but I think oh, sorry, did I cut you off?
No, go.
Oh, sorry about that if I did. So most of it is like letting go of your I'm not sure ego is the right word, or your sense of control as a director, because as we said, as we established already, it's not about control at all. It's about like managing the
It's
chaos. And
collaboration.
yes.
Okay. You know what irritates me most about what I'm seeing in filmmakers lately
Yeah, please.
is that there is so little effort and thought put in to communication.
Oh, yes.
And there are so many assumptions of or lack of like forethought on what those what that lack of communication does. And I'm not talking just young people. I'm talking about older people too. I have evidence for both, but it really boils down to communication. Collaboration is communication. And even through whatever is difficult, I don't mind having a debate if it's for the good of the project and we both understand that there's no hard feelings at it. It's just trying to understand what's best for the story, right?
Yes, yes,
And
absolutely.
I think that some people take that too personally and they don't know how to navigate that. I understand that. This is not a job for everyone. I once read in a book, I think it was Anne Bogart. I think it was Anne Bogart, a director of prepares, and she said that a choice can feel violent, right? Somebody making a choice, no, can feel violent,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And that that is something that needs to be reckoned with. You have to kind of reckon with the idea that, you know, you're gonna have people that are, you know, affected or activated by your decision not to go their direction or to say, I don't agree with that, right? No, a no can feel violent in an artistic setting. It is understanding that, that is a part and honestly a feature of the space.
And it's, uh, I don't know. I haven't. Well, I haven't personally seen. I think I'm lucky seeing the ego clash or some creative differences that much. Feel lucky about that. But I'm also doing it basically as a hobby. But um, okay, how would you navigate that as a director? Like you
Well,
got the guy.
I will say that I think that if you're going to be serious about directing nowadays, you should do something to my advice is what I did is this. I took a summer session in theater intimacy and directing intimate theatrical scenes. That gave me a language on how to approach conflict and also how to approach intimate scenes, like how you break down an intimate scene, how you handle the intimacy of it, tools to give your actors so that they know what is okay to be touched, what is not, like there's a whole bunch of things, but also one of the things it gives you that I learned was a system of apology, right? And I think that a lot of things that happen are because the way somebody apologizes or the way that somebody thinks is an acceptable way to apologize does not fulfill all the things, right?
Okay, yeah,
So
absolutely.
having a system of apology is very, very, very important if you want to have a conducive collaborative space. You have to know how to, after voicing your opinion very passionately, once you realize you're wrong, have a way of saying, "Oh, I see I'm wrong. I apologize." Right?
Okay, yes, yes, because sometimes I'm sorry is just not enough.
Well, it's also like it's to the degree at which you like I'm a very passionate person. I'm a very passionate person. So my apologies are whatever my passion is in that moment, my apology is going to match that energy. It has to. It has to. I have to because I have to unless I feel like it's going to be over flooding the person, some people they don't need that much, but I'm just an enthusiastic and again passionate person. But the system of apology is very, very easy. It's very easy. All you have to do is one, state what it is you did. I am sorry that I thought the wrong thing, right? I'm sorry that I made the wrong conclusion and acted upon it, right?
Yes.
Then you say, then you apologize. I'm sorry for making this conclusion. Then you thank them and say thank you for coming to me and telling me this and thank you for having patience with me while I learned this lesson and figured this out. And then the fourth thing, which is the final thing, is you say going forward, I will think about this or do this thing differently in this way. That's it.
Okay. Oh, that's a good four-step program, four-step method. And
I
um,
mean, like it's and it, and I it doesn't mean anything if it's not sincere.
yes, Absolutely. It
It
doesn't.
doesn't mean anything if it's not sincere. And people will see through it. You can have all these four steps and you want, or whatever steps, but if it's not, if you don't mean it, people are going to see through it. So this is a great way of like giving yourself a system to, okay, I know I need to apologize. I'm not quite sure how. Well, now you have a way, a default way of kind of like, okay, this is this is the at least the bare minimum. Let me figure out how to work within the structure to make this right.
Okay. Okay. So that's a good way to approach a conflict among you,
Totally. And I
anyone
again like
involved.
it's okay to be passionate and it's okay to like be passionate in response. I think that whenever you are like, "Oh, I didn't think about it that way," and you feel that, it's good to call that out and say, "Oh, you know what? I don't know if I thought about it that way." Or, "Oh, that's a good point." Too often we hear the voice of protect what you're talking about first instead of, oh, well, wait, if they, what if they made a good point? I always think that like somebody's probably making a better point than I am.
Okay. Yeah. Again, it goes back to like, uh, as you already stated, like leaving your ego behind the door, like just don't.
It's also about the team. It's about
Yes.
the team, the team, the team, the team, the team, the team, the team. It is always about the team. So if if you are running into that a lot, then it typically means that the team, there's something about the team that is shaky, or it may not be that it's a trust thing, but it is a perhaps a responsibility thing. Like somebody doesn't understand what their responsibilities are, right? And so I am a big fan of like, I'm from Baltimore. I'm a huge Baltimore Ravens fan, and I love John Harbaugh as a coach. And they are the team, the team, the team, the team. It's
Okay.
always about the team. And in any way support the team, right? Not the director, not the writer, not the actors, the team, right? And so everybody gets love wherever it's needed. And if everybody needs love, then everybody gets love because it's the team.
Okay. And okay, this one is a little bit off topic, but um, as we established in the earlier part, don't give up. But it comes to almost every artist's life that he or she or they face failures, and or some people who are like, I'm not going anywhere, or someone who is like, okay, I'm too old for this, right? What your suggestion to that person would be who's listening right now and feel like, okay, he got to do it. And, oh, Jan is directing, fine. He has such good luck, but I'm too old, or I'm too young, or I'm too this and that, and whatever. What you want to say to that individual?
It's not luck, it's realizing that everything else is resistance.
Okay, that's a good statement. And if you want to say one more thing, like just one sentence or one action that they need to take right now, what it would be.
Resistance comes in a lot of forms. Resistance comes in so many forms, and it's very tricky, and it's great at talking you into doing something else other than making art. But anything that isn't art is resistance. So if you are not writing, if you are not making, if you are doing any of those things because you've got a voice in your head that says, and I was just talking about this with a friend of mine earlier today. If you've got a voice in your head that says, "Oh, I don't know if I should be a part of that because XYZ," or "Oh, I'll do that later because these things are more important," but it's still in the back of your head gnawing at you and you don't act on it, that's resistance. And resistance, its only purpose is to keep you from doing what you're meant to do, and it's really good at it. So it is advisable to recognize whenever you are feeling resistance and then examine the thing it wants you to resist and persist upon that.
Okay. And uh yeah, I'm keep coming back to this, and your practical advice would be just do something, right?
My
Just
practical advice would be to whatever it is that you're resisting, go and do.
okay.
Go
Yeah.
towards the scary thing. go towards the scary thing, the thing that frightens you the most of doing, because that's the thing you should be doing. You always have to go towards a scary thing. My mother used to say it all the time. You go towards a scary thing because that's where growth is.
Okay. Oh, that's a really wonderful advice, Jan. Thank you for that.
That was my mom. She also said whenever you fall in love, marry for kindness and adventure.
Okay. Oh, I'm single, so that's a good advice too. Uh,
Yes, totally. Kindness and adventure. It's miracle work. Kindness and adventure. It's the way to go.
okay. Okay, so what's one thing that Jan-David Soutar wants to do and it's still not done yet? I'm not talking about making a $1 billion movie or making an art house movie, something that is always in your mind, but you still haven't done it yet.
Oh man, there's so many things. There's so many things. Oh my gosh. There is there's a play, there's a feature film, there's a wonderful, you know what? One thing that I haven't done, I have a short story. That won the Cal State University Best Short Screenplay Award last year. Called Naya and the Legend of the Stone Woman. It's based on Cherokee legend. And I would love to see it made into an animated story or made in some way, shape, or form. And I haven't really figured out how to make that happen yet. But it's a short story about Naya who awakens the Stone Woman and guides her to find her family across the mountains of the Appalachia.
Okay, that's a good tagline too. And I read the script, and I love that story. I love that
Oh,
story.
you read the script? I sent you the script?
Yes, when you I read the script when you said it won the award, and I
Right,
put
right.
on
I
the
said it. You say wondered. Oh man, that's so cool.
yes, yes.
You liked it?
I loved it. Check your DMs, brother. What the hell?
Man, it's this play. I am obsessed.
Okay.
It is. This has been wonderful because it's been like a 2 hours of not thinking about the play for a moment. And so like, it's been kind of like, oh, I get to think about other things. But otherwise, like, oh man, once you get into a play world, once you put on a fringe play and see how much you remember.
Okay. Uh, I never told you about that, but I acted in community theater for almost 5 years.
Nice.
So I didn't directed anything, I didn't wrote anything, I just acted, and
Yeah.
I was a nightmare because I always used to improv on stage because I just reacted to like we mostly made like comedies and satire, so always like see what the public is reacting. I used to improvise and then getting yelled at afterwards. That's a different issue, but yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing is like it's thrilling to do that. And it's also a little rebellious, right?
yes,
But
absolutely,
it's also like at the end of the day, like it's only helpful to a point,
yeah.
right? And so then you have to decide like, okay, it helps me here, but it doesn't help me here. How serious do I want to take it?
You're absolutely right. You gave me the same advice as my mentor did. He's like, at least make something that is in line with your character and story. If it is funny and it goes against your character and story,
No,
it
because
doesn't mean anything.
me of all people appreciate subversive storytelling. I love subversive storytelling. The problem is that subversive acting is different than subversive storytelling.
Okay, so I would need you to elaborate on that shortly.
So, for example, subversive storytelling is telling a story in a way that breaks something in the mechanics of what you expect, right?
Yep, like instead of three act, you say 4 act.
Or it takes a subject matter and it tells it in a way that you wouldn't expect it to tell it,
Yes,
right? That can
absolutely.
that can be subversive as well. And but subversive acting is whenever you apply that principle to a person's the way that a person acts. So you will have actors that will be subversive in their acting because they feel like the story should be subversive, more subversive, and or they just want to be subversive to the story out of like an impish kind of like desire. I understand it. It's fun. But it's not always helpful. And subversive meaning that like you want to go against whatever it is has been prescribed,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that is not to be offensive. It's an immature response, because it means that you are not comfortable working within a limitation because you see the limitation as the enemy.
Yes. And it's as you hit the nail on the head, it was immature-ish of me as an immature as an actor because I thought I'm just talking about myself. It's like I thought, okay, if it is funny, why does it matter? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Eh, and that's not the right way to go.
No, because like it's overgeneralizing what it means to be funny, and not just funny, but funny is not comedy.
Yes. Yes. You're correct.
Comedy is multiple broad spectrum, but funny doesn't always mean that it's going to be comedy. It just means that it's funny. There's a philosopher named Henri Bergson, and he wrote an essay on laughter. Like, what is laughter? What does it do? Why do we laugh? Where did it come from? What is like why is it that like we laugh when a man is walking down the street and we see the banana peel and we see the man walking to the banana peel and then he slips on the banana peel and he falls and he doesn't hurt himself except that he falls and we laugh, right? Why? And he wrote this whole wonderful essay on it. And for him, he broke it down to whenever we see that man slip on the banana peel, right, we are seeing the mechanics of humanity break. And that causes us to laugh.
Oh, yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah,
Why is it that when we smile, it is so often used as an apology?
we don't know.
And then whenever when somebody gets into an elevator with you, don't you smile at them as kind of an apology? Sorry that we're sharing this space.
Yes, yes, I do. I
Now
do
think
that
about
for.
now go through the rest of your life and think about how often you smile as an apology, and you'll be shocked.
Oh, yes, I do that almost every for 2 hours.
Everybody does all the time. It is part of who we are as humans, and it is good to recognize these things.
Okay, okay, that's. Oh, you gave me a lot to think about, sir. Okay, final thing before we end our session here is that one thing that I always struggle with, and I want you to chime in on that, is about subtext in your scripts. When I try to write, when I write something with the subtext in my mind, it always go bad. It always feels just so generic and hand holding the audience to see the point. But when I write something and read it again, and I see, oh my God, there's a lot of subtext that I didn't think of.
Mm.
So, what's your thought about on subtext? Because as for the O Constantine play, even though it's a play, it feels really political climate right now, which is happening right now. And even though you wrote it way before anything of that happened, uh,
Yeah, I think that I mean, if you're talking about how I wrote subtext into it, this to me is a really, on the face of it, to most of us living now, it's so dumb. Like, who cares? Who cares? Really, who cares? Until you keep looking at it and then you go, but wait. And that's how you hook it, right? Because because I like to say that this play is 89% true.
um, I well, time is a flat circle, so
Sometimes. So for subtext, like you have to figure out the level of subtext that's appropriate to the genre, first of all, right? Like I'm writing a satire, so subtext I can like make that it's clay. I can mash it, and as long as that it's got a purpose in what I'm, constructing it into, and it goes in well with the it goes in well with whatever the joke is, or whatever the storyline, or the thread I'm pulling at. That's where I kind of mold it. But I'm kind of always thinking about subtext. Again, I said it earlier. I really like thinking about thinking while I'm thinking. And so I always kind of like to stay just a little bit ahead of my audience. That's why I think it's really important to know your audience, and to think about the audience constantly, so that you are um if you're ahead of them, or if you feel like, oh, I'm behind the audience, like there's something there, I need to do something to catch up to them, or whatever have you. um so I really really stress that finding a good way to know what they're going to expect out of that genre, and then you can exploit that, right? To to lead them down to a subtext that they might understand because of the rules of the genre.
Mm. Okay, I would have a good chunk of discussion about that, but unfortunately, we're running out of time.
Yeah, no, my wife calls me a satirical exploitationist, because I like to exploit. I will take a genre, and then I'll figure out how it works, and then I'll exploit it with satire so that I can use it. Like if you look at Starship Troopers,
Oh,
great example of satirical exploitation. You're exploiting the action genre to have a satirical conversation on military propaganda. They Live, John Carpenter's They Live, is satirical exploitation of the sci-fi horror genre to talk about capitalism and consumerism.
yes, absolutely. And those are the ones that kind of makes uh I think that's the genre I lean over towards too, and it's one of the best in my opinion, and I'll die on that hill. Like, and that's for me is very hard, and I think for you, and don't mind me, I'm not meaning to offend you, but it's from the beginning that you said yourself you write activist movies, and then you move forward, and also you watch some popular movies at first, and then you went into philosophy, so the whole your life experience just mashed into your style, our style, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's the journey of most artists. Like they just their life experience just makes them who they are.
No, I think, well, I mean, existentialism, right?
Yeah.
You are the sum of your experiences. I think that really any filmmaker who is really into exploring not just the image, and not just character, and not just the audience, but the idea, is gonna want to have some understanding of philosophy, or it doesn't need to be like, continental versus like Western or whatever have you, but really understanding, or having a perspective on a worldview of a way of something can work. As a person who loves history, I think that philosophy is also really entwined with movements in history. So, for example, O Constantine takes place 1700 years ago. So I read all